The airport buzzed with noise and motion. Families boarding, announcements echoing. Suddenly, everything stopped. A white pilot slapped a black woman near the gate. The sound cracked through the terminal. People gasped. Phones rose. No one moved. He assumed she was just a disruptive traveler. What he didn't know? That woman was someone powerful, and his biggest mistake yet. Her name was Chief Renee Thomas, the newly appointed police chief of a major U.S. city. Off-duty, dressed in plain clothes, sneakers, jeans, and a hoodie, she looked like any regular traveler. That was the point. She wasn't there for attention, just a quiet trip. But this wasn't the first time someone underestimated her. The pilot's aggression wasn't just rude, it was reckless. He had no idea he'd just assaulted a law enforcement officer and done it in front of dozens of witnesses. Renee had spent the last 2 years rebuilding a broken department. Police reform, public meetings, endless crises. She barely had time to sleep, let alone breathe. This trip was her first break in months, a solo getaway, booked quietly. She wanted no headlines, no press, just a few days of silence. She wore no uniform, no sign of rank. Her badge stayed zipped in her inner bag. She was just trying to fly under the radar until ignorance pulled her into the spotlight. Boarding began at Gate 17. Passengers gathered in small groups, waiting for their zone to be called. Renee stood back, quiet and composed. When Group 1 was announced, she stepped forward with her ticket. From behind, a sharp voice snapped, "You can't just cut the line." It was the pilot, Captain Halverson. She turned, confused. "I'm Group 1, she replied, holding up her pass. He sneered. "You people always think rules don't apply." Then, without warning, he slapped her. Gasps echoed. Phones came out. The terminal froze. No one spoke. The violence was fast. The shame was immediate. Renee didn't react with rage. She stood still, her eyes fixed on the pilot. Slowly, she unzipped her bag and pulled out a leather wallet. Inside, her badge. She held it up, steady and clear. "I'm Chief Renee Thomas, Atlanta Police Department." The silence deepened. "You just assaulted a police officer in front of over 20 witnesses." The gate agent's face went pale. The pilot took a step back. The power had shifted, and this time, it wasn't in his hands. Renee dialed one number, calmly, no drama. "Get me TSA and the airport unit," she said to her assistant chief. Within minutes, 2 TSA officers and airport police approached. Renee gave a brief statement and handed them her badge. Captain Halverson was escorted to a holding room, silent, stunned. Witnesses began approaching her, offering phone footage and statements. 3 volunteered to testify on record. Renee didn't argue. She didn't raise her voice. She documented, noted, observed. She wasn't there for revenge. She was there for accountability. And this time, every camera was finally pointed in the right direction. Within 24 hours, Captain Halverson was suspended. The airline's inbox flooded with complaints from passengers who had faced his verbal abuse before, some with racial undertones. An internal investigation launched immediately, uncovering a pattern of misconduct hidden for years. Social media exploded, and news outlets picked up the story. Pressure mounted on the airline to act swiftly. By the end of the week, the pilot was officially terminated. His career, once secure, had crumbled because arrogance and unchecked bias finally met accountability. The message was clear: actions have consequences, no matter who you are. Chief Renee Thomas stood in front of flashing cameras, not as a victim, but as a leader. "This isn't just about a slap," she said firmly. "It's about what happens when those in power believe they can act without consequences. If this can happen to me, a police chief, imagine how many others suffer in silence." Her words struck a chord nationwide. The video of her calmly revealing her badge went viral, inspiring countless conversations about justice and equality. Renee's message was clear. Respect and accountability are non-negotiable. Captain Halverson's story became a case study in airline training programs, a cautionary tale against prejudice and abuse of power. The airline revamped its policies to better protect passengers. Renee returned to her duties with renewed purpose, focused on meaningful change rather than personal fame. And as she often reminded others, justice doesn't always wear a uniform. Sometimes it wears jeans and a hoodie.